Before we go back to the Yediyurappa factor and internal differences between the two parties, Aishwarya, giving you a chance to respond to what Brajesh said about the Congress and the BJP basically inspired by the Aam Aadmi Party model.
You know, Shiv, Brajesh Kalapa is absolutely right, because before the Aam Aadmi Party came to power, there were no hospitals, there were no schools, there were no PHCs, and there was absolutely no development until this obviously gift of God turned up in Delhi, and after that everybody's been copying them. It's absolutely ludicrous to sit and say somebody invented a scheme for schools and clean water and whatnot, because it's an affront to every other government that has previously been there. Yes, the Aam Aadmi Party packages it and sells it very well, while the efficacy of all these schools and the mohalla clinics are something that we can have a different debate on. But let me come down to one singular fact about this idea of freebies. And you know, Bommai talks about it being desperate and sad and whatnot. If that was the case, why was it that they promised 10 hours of free running power to all farmers in their manifesto, 99% of which they haven't even completed or even given or fulfilled because they're too mired in corruption? Let's get down to the math of this. I think today's day and age, this is not a freebie, it's a necessity. Given the rise in cost of daily commodities, we cannot as a state control things like fuel prices without obviously hitting the exchequer. But there is one man that has thought about this scheme, and he's the most equipped to do it. Before he became power minister, he basically inherited a ministry that had a deficit and was basically running losses.
Okay.
Mr. D.K. Shivkumar is the man who, as power minister, gave you a surplus. He not only gave you off-grids, captive power plants and bought in solar plant, he basically reduced transmission loss to a cost that was unprecedented anywhere in the country. And today, if Mr. D.K. Shivkumar tells you that he can give you 200 free units of power, rest assured the man will deliver. And the Congress party does not make promises like the BJP that are not founded on any merit or metric. We're the party that has governed and delivered, and today if the Congress party promises you something, we will keep up that promise, unlike the BJP that hasn't fulfilled 90% of its manifesto promises. And the AAP, the less said the better. Like really, they're coming out thinking they're somebody. We'll wait for the election results and then we'll talk about it.
I like how specific this entire debate and this campaign is getting, but I just want to zoom out for the last few minutes of this discussion and go back to Dr. Sandeep Shastri. You know, we've spoken about the freebies and, you know, ticket distribution, internal differences. Dr. Shastri, we do know that internal rebellions have been part and parcel of Karnataka politics. We've seen them in the Congress party, we've seen them in the BJP. As things stand right now, you know, we've spoken about battle readiness. Which side do you think is more vulnerable or susceptible to internal rebellions, which could have an impact on the next few months, sir?
I think both parties have chinks in their armor. The two major parties, they both have chinks in their armor. And how much is their opponent able to exploit it would be critical. And I think for BJP, the key factor would be how are you going to keep Mr. BSY on your side and active? And for the Congress, it would be how would you keep the two key leaders, Mr. Shiv Kumar and Mr. Siddaramaiah, in such a way that neither of them, in a sense, would do something which impacts on the unity of the party. A small point on this freebies. I think it's important to understand the fact that the voter in Karnataka and elsewhere in the country is not enamored by freebies, but is enamored by what governments have performed on the ground. If Aam Aadmi Party did well in Punjab, it did not do it over one election, but did it over two elections, where you demonstrated on the ground the way that you interact with the people. In the past, simply announcing a freebie by a party does not bring it electoral dividends. What we have seen is voters look at what has actually happened on the ground when you were earlier in power and whether the welfare schemes you talked about were actually implemented. So simply declaring a freebie by anybody, be it the Congress, BJP, AAP or anyone, does not really take you anywhere, because the voter is looking at what was delivered actually on the ground.